You will not find this explanation anywhere but here. Here is what emotions actually are. Let's take the nervous system as an example. Your nervous system is a system of nerve endings in the body connected to the brain, right? That sends data to the brain based on what it's taking in from its nerve receptors and the senses, such as your sight, sound, what you smell, what you taste. So as you interact with the outside world, the nervous system is sending all of this data and this information to the brain for the brain to interpret and sort out. And so you're going to get sensations that are potentially damaging, such as touching something hot or touching something sharp. And what sort of sensation do you get? It comes in the form of pain, which causes you to automatically, instinctually react by pulling away from it. So you can see how practical that is for protecting the body. Also, you will get sensations such as pleasurable sensations from eating food or touching soft satin sheets or a warm touch from a loved one. And you will get that data sent to the brain, and the brain will interpret that as being good, being pleasurable, and will communicate to you, the self, okay, this is good, we want more of that, keep going, right? So it's the opposite of something that's bad for the self, which makes you pull away. The sensations of the nervous system draw you toward the things that seem good for the self. Does that make sense? Simultaneously, you have another system. That is your emotional system. The way that the nervous system is interacting for the benefit of the body, your emotional system is reacting for the benefit of the soul, or your inner self, or your energy self. That is, in psychology, the ego. You see, all of us have a version of ourselves that's invisible to eyes, that's beyond the body. That version of ourself is the metaphysical self, or the ego, or you can call it the soul. But whatever name you call it by, it exists, and in the mind it is very, very real. And you must understand this to understand emotions. Because that metaphysical self has to be protected the same way the body has to be protected. And that metaphysical self has needs the same way the body has needs. So when you understand the energy self, then you understand emotions, because it is the way that the energy self is interacting with the outside world, in the sense that your senses and the nervous system are interacting with the outside world for the body. So for the energy self, the emotions are interpreting all of the data that is being taken into the brain. What you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're hearing, right? But now it's going to give you an emotional response to those things as to how they affect the energy self. So for instance, if you get a piece of information, which information is energy, it's just electrical, right? Any idea is energy, any thought is energy, because thoughts are literally electrical chemical synapses firing between neurons in the brain. So when someone says something to you, it carries like an energy charge to it. It is just pure energy, right? Their words are energy. So if they say you're an ugly person, then that energy is not going to affect the body, but it will affect the soul. It affects your ego, right? It can hurt, but it will hurt you, the inner self. And that's where we see the differentiation. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Well, that's not totally accurate. Sticks and stones affect the physical body. Being called names affect the metaphysical self. Does that make sense? So yes, when someone called you a name, your body was fine, but the metaphysical self felt it. Meanwhile, you get hit with a stone, your metaphysical self is fine. Like literally, you're chilling metaphysically, but your body is like, oh, ow, right? And so what happens is these systems are working together in tandem to create your whole experience. Now, since your body got hurt, it's still an affront to the self because your body is a part of the self, right? So your metaphysical self may create an energy charge around that saying, hey, we don't want this to happen again. So we're going to send the chemicals to feel pain, cortisol in the emotional sense, so that this person feels a sense of fear and anxiety around a circumstance like this to protect the self. And it will actually create what we know as trauma, which is when your boundary is violated, that creates a traumatic event. And your brain, your mind, more so the energy self, creates an emotional experience around that, rooted in fear, so that anytime you're reminded of that event in some way, i.e. triggered, the fear response will kick in so that you'll protect yourself. And that's basically where we get the concept of trauma. But your emotions can be positive as well. So what determines when you get a positive emotion versus a negative emotion? Well, to understand that, you have to understand what the thought self is really made of, what your ego is really made of, what the self, you, the conscious being who's looking at me right now, you have this thought energy self, but what is it made up of? Because our body is made up of cells, right? And it's made up of the things we eat, literally. So what is the thought self made of? Well, yes, thoughts, concepts, energy, but specifically, it's your values. You are synonymous with your values. Your identity, your ego, is synonymous with the things you find to be important in life. This can be shallow things like your PlayStation or your television. If they are very important to you, they become a part of you in a metaphysical sense. And so if there's a violation of those things, you will feel a negative emotion. But likewise, you have thousands of other concepts and thoughts that make up the self. Things that you value, such as loyalty, friendship, honor, trust. The list may look unique and different for you, and that's what allows us all to be unique as ourselves is we pick and choose out of the thousands of concepts that we learn about through life, and we say, ooh, I like that. I want to be about that. And we imitate those traits, those concepts, those ideas, and we speak about those ideas, and we learn about those ideas, and we practice those ideas. And all of those ideas are just energy. It's how we build up the energy self. So who you are is what you value. So if this is what you value right here, when something violates your values, that's when you get those intense negative emotions such as anger, sadness, fear. Okay? So let's say you value friendship, and then one of your friends says, I'm breaking up with you. Bam! They violated one of your values. You get a very sharp pain. What is that pain you feel inside? Well, it's just chemicals, right? They're just chemicals and electrical energy being sent through the body. But you feel like you don't know where it is and it hurts, right? You're like, oh man, oh, my friend broke up with me. Oh, this is so painful. The emotion is just the energy value, the energy self has been violated. So it's sending you pain, and you may get it in the form of anger, or beneath the anger, there's probably a sadness, a hurt, a more vulnerable emotion. A fear of abandonment, a feeling of loneliness. It could be a violation in the sense of a potential violation is being sensed. That is a threat. That's where you get anxiety. Anxiety is the sensing of a potential violation or a threat. Oh my goodness, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. I could lose him, I could lose him, I could lose her, I could lose her. I'm afraid, I'm afraid. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Right? That's anxiety. Oh no, 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 no. What's happening with that? Very simple. The subconscious mind has an imprint, a program from a past trauma that says, hey, if ever you think that something like this is going to happen again, send all the cortisol and adrenaline to this person you can so that they can protect the self from being back in that trauma. The problem is these traumas can be purely emotional, like if you were emotionally abused or neglected. So it's not that you were ever hit or there was a physical trauma. It can be pure energy trauma, but it's very real. And those chemicals going through your body is very real. When you feel that pain, it is real and it is painful. But you don't need to resort to cutting yourself or hurting yourself. You don't need necessarily a medication to bring down this energy. You need to learn to regulate the thoughts. The chemicals are put into the body not because you were born with a chemical imbalance. That would be highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. I know that it's very common to be told that by doctors, but it's highly unlikely you're born with a chemical imbalance. Chemicals fluctuate in virtually any person's system. So you can't be born with an imbalance. You could be born with a predisposition maybe toward an imbalance, but your chemicals are changing and fluctuating constantly throughout the day, multiple times a day, hundreds of times, maybe thousands, right? And so when you're getting the adrenaline, the cortisol that's coming into your bloodstream, and you're feeling that anxiety, it's being triggered by your thoughts. Not something you were born with, not a family trait. No, it's not a disease. It's your thoughts. See, whatever you focus your mind on, your mind perceives that as its reality. So your emotions are literally what you perceive in your reality as it's affecting your values. So if it aligns with your values, you're going to get positive emotion. If it violates the values, you're going to get negative emotion. And that's where you're getting anxieties from, this concept of something's going to violate myself or the values, which are synonymous. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So likewise, you're going to get positive emotions and positive experiences when things are aligning with the values. So you'll learn in another video how you can actually go in and change the emotions. But it has to do with the fact that there's a perception, there's reality, and there's your values. And when you can change either your perception, or you can change your actual reality, or you can change your values, then you can change your emotional state. This is 100% effective, by the way. It's not if you're new to watching my videos or something, I'm going to let you know right now, it's not uncommon for me to meet with a client and within just one meeting, their anxiety to clear up. And this is anxiety they may have carried virtually their whole life. They may have had lifelong anxiety. We can have one conversation and clear up that anxiety. How am I doing that? How are we curing anxiety? This also works with depression. This works with a variety of emotional imbalances. How is that possible? Simple. There's 3 things you can affect, you can change with the emotions. The emotions are an automated system just like your nervous system. So you can't get the emotional system to go away, right? And taking a pill to suppress it or throw it off whack, it's just going to make you feel very weird. And pills do work for 50% of people, 50% of the time. Okay? So it could help you, but they don't cure anything. 100% of the time, pills are not a cure. You still have to do the work to get the cure. The cure is to learn how to manage emotions. You have to go in through the control panel. Your control panel is going to be 3 doors, and door number 1 is changing reality. Door number 2 is changing perception. Door number 3 is changing your values. So here's how this works. Really simple. You walk into your house, the house is a mess. Suddenly you start getting anxiety or you start getting anger, some type of emotion. What's happening? You had a value. Here's your values over here being violated, right? More so, you're perceiving that in your reality, the value is being violated. So you got your perception, you got reality, and you got a violation happening. So that's our cocktail. Bam, we got negative emotion. How do we change it? In that moment, you have the ability to regulate your emotion. And most people do. This is why 2 out of 3 people do not deal and struggle with chronic anxiety. 1 out of 3 does. Why? What's happening? Well, they don't know what they can do to regulate their emotion. They may have learned to feel as if they are actually helpless. But you're not helpless. So in that situation, what can you do? Well, 1, you can change the reality. If you change the reality, that means that you're just going to literally clean up the house. As soon as the house is clean, that anxiety about that issue is now gone. Simple. You've regulated your emotion. How? By changing reality. Problem is, a lot of times you can't change the reality. Sometimes it's something where it's not in your control. Nothing you can do about it, right? So, for instance, you get a report card in the mail, and the report card says that you failed the class, and you got to take the class over again. Now, it's natural and reasonable for people to feel a bit down about this. But if you find yourself going to an extreme, it's because your thoughts have become extreme. Your perception of reality has become extreme, right? So the extreme emotions are going to come from extreme thoughts like, oh my God, now I'll never graduate. Oh my God, I'm going to be a bum. I'm going to be living under a bridge. Oh, this is going to be really bad. I don't know what I'm going to do. My mom is going to kill me. Extreme thoughts lead to extreme feelings and emotions. So a few minutes later, you're like, oh, I feel awful. Why do I feel so awful? You feel awful because your thoughts are extreme. Regulate your thoughts. So since we can't change reality in this case, unless we could retake a test or something, but if you can't change reality, the grade is the grade. This is tough, but now we got to go into our perception, or we have to change our values. How does that look? Well, you can change the perception of the situation, but it's not always easy. But I'll tell you one secret about perception. You can always change the perception. You can't always change reality. You can't always change values either. So let's knock that one out right now. Let's see how we could change our values in this situation. Well, if you simply said, I don't care whether I fail or pass. In that moment, if you really believe that you don't care about school or whether you fail or pass, your anxiety will go down. And so the work that I'm doing with clients, I may be helping them to realign their values so that they're more adaptive and to recognize, hey, look, how important really is this? And as they realize, oh yeah, school is not that important, it's not paramount, and what my mom thinks is not everything in life, regulate the thoughts, regulate the emotions. How is that happening? The chemicals. It's so simple when I explain it, isn't it? Hopefully it is. The chemicals. The chemicals that you're getting now are going to be aligned with your thoughts, and your thoughts are moderate. So your chemicals are moderate. So you're like, man, I feel great. How'd that happen after 1 hour of talking? Because we changed the values. So that changes your emotional state. Now, sometimes you can't change your values, right? Sometimes something happens and it's just a value that you can't let go. Because some things in life are just too important to us and we can't let that go. So let's say a friend lied to us and we are just on level 100. Oh my God, lying to me is absolutely bad. So we go in, we say, hey, can we change this value? And you say, I can't change the value of being against lying. Lying is really bad. Okay, then we have to change the perception of the situation. Now, how do we change the perception? Well, this can look 1,000 different ways, but ultimately you have to change the way you're looking at it and how you're feeding it to yourself. So if you choose to feed it to yourself as, my friend lied to me because they hate me. My friend lies to me because they don't respect me. My friend lied to me because I'm nothing. You can imagine how you're going to start to feel really depressed, like really upset. Or my friend lied to me because he's garbage. This always happens to me. I can't trust anyone. You know how you're going to start to get into anger, right? But extreme thoughts lead to extreme emotions. So what happens if we change the perception? And we say, your friend lied. That's true. That's going to hurt some. But, because that's your value, so it's going to hurt. But, doesn't everybody lie? Yeah. If everyone lies, is everyone a piece of garbage? Or does really lying not necessarily make you a piece of trash? Well, lying doesn't necessarily make you a piece of trash. And sometimes don't people lie even though it's not that they don't respect a person, but maybe they just fear what the person's going to say or the person's going to do? Yeah. Can you see from that person, already the anxiety is coming down. Can you see from that person's perspective why they might have chose to lie based on your reactions in the past? Yeah, I can see why they would. Have you ever lied before? Yeah. So this is something that a good person could do a bad thing. They might actually still be a good person. They might actually still want to be your friend. They might actually still respect you, but they messed up. When you feed it to yourself from a new perspective, it's the same thing. Friend lied, but you look at it as friend made a mistake instead of this friendship is a mistake. Emotions are different. What do we change? The perspective. Simple. This is why in 1 hour we can literally obliterate your anxiety. And for some people, it's like lifelong after that. It's like, oh, thanks. That was all I needed. And they're good after having dealt with it their whole life. So, look, use what you've learned here. The understanding of emotions is a lifesaver. Use this. Regulate your own anxiety. Regulate your own depression. Regulate your own anger. If it's not working, if you need help, no shame in the game. Give me a call. Send me a text message. I don't really answer calls. Send a text. If you don't have my number, just go to the website, mindfree.org, and you can send a text through there, or you can send an email to us, mindfreed.org. Get in contact. I will help you out, or I'll have someone else jump on the line with you, help you out. Literally 1 to 3 sessions, you're supposed to be in and out. The reason therapists have people coming day after day, week after week, year after year, is because A, they're either not good at their job, or 2, they just want money. You can't make money on curing people's depression in 1 to 3 sessions. I'm just letting you know that right now. So that's why we do it as a community service, right? But if you've been going to a therapist and you still have anxiety and depression, you've been going and going and going, mindfree.org, reach out and send this to some friends and family. Let them get in on the good stuff. Love you.